Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 2 of Coffee, Laughs, and Disability. I'm so excited that you're here. We've got cool stuff to talk about today. Let's go. First up, do you know the drill yet? Is our Disabled Creator Shoutout. This week's Disabled Creator Shoutout is my friend, Rose. You can find Rose on Instagram at RoseLeeVander. Rose and I have known each other on Instagram for quite some time now. I'm not sure exactly how long. The downside of our friendship is that she lives all the way across the country and we haven't ever met. But we both have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, the hypermobility type. We're both chronic illness warriors and now we get to be friends. I told Rose I was going to shout her out in this episode of Coffee, Laughs, and Disability, and here's what she had to say. The main reason I started posting about my chronic illness was just to help remind other people who may be quietly fighting similar battles who know they're not alone. Seeing people's vulnerability on social media while I was coming to terms with my disability really helped me normalize and understand the changes that were happening, and helped keep me from giving into the internalized ableism that society has taught us to have. I like to hope that people seeing my posts will feel a sense of community and support and empowerment. Long term, I'm planning to mentor other chronically ill people so that they can advocate for themselves, communicate with their doctors, and make the most of short appointments. I'm really excited that I've come to get to know Rose on social media, and hopefully one day we'll get together. Thanks again, Rose, for everything that you do for the chronic illness community. Make sure to head on over to Rose's page at RoseLeeVander on Instagram and hit that follow button. This disorder or illness of the episode is Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. The Ehlers-Danlos syndromes are a group of hereditary disorders of connective tissue that are varied in ways that affect the body and their genetic causes. The underlying concern is the abnormal structure or function of collagen and certain allied connective tissue proteins. Individuals of all racial and ethnic backgrounds are affected by EDS, which can present with complications from birth and progress over time. People with EDS often have joint pain, subluxations or dislocations, skin elasticity, digestive and or bladder issues, and nerve disorders. There are currently 13 different types of EDS, all but one having their own genetic markers. That one that doesn't have a genetic marker just happens to be the most common type, which is the hypermobile EDS that I have and that Rose has. EDS also has several different comorbidities. Among the most common comorbidities of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are upper and lower gastrointestinal tract complications, such as, and I'm going to look at my computer, swallowing difficulties, sluggish stomach and large bowel, causing nausea, vomiting, acid reflux, bloating, pain, and absorption, and food intolerance concerns. Autonomic disturbances of heart rate and blood pressure, bowel and bladder function, and temperature regulation, anxiety, depression, and phobias, and organ and systematic inflammation related to mast cell activation. If you don't know what autonomic dysfunction is, it's just the parts of your body that regulate themselves on their own. Your heart rate, your breathing, your digestive issues, your digestive tract, etc. Growing up with EDS, I always got dismissed as having growing pains, which seemed to be a common issue with young kids that go to the doctor for joint pain. So make sure that if you suspect that your kid has any kind of ailment and they are repeatedly being dismissed by your doctors, that you advocate for them. It's very important and will help with the diagnosis process in the long run. Up next, is it accessible? Da-da-da-da. Today in the ADA we are talking about Title I, which covers work. Now that we know what the ADA is, let's get into Title I. I was also able to find a case study on whether the Title I of the ADA actually protects disabled people in their work environments. And here is the abstract of that case study that I found. Take a moment to pause and read it if you like. I have a gecko, and those are crickets. Title I of the ADA, or the employment section, states, the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 prohibits private employers, state and local governments, employment agencies, and labor unions from discriminating against qualified individuals with disabilities in job application procedures, hiring, firing, advancement, compensation, job training, and other terms, conditions, and privileges of employment. The ADA covers employers with 15 or more employees, including state and local governments. It also applies to employment agencies and to labor organizations. Although the study that I found is pretty comprehensive, it does reflect that a lot of disabled individuals probably aren't starting or opening a court case or reporting their issues to the law, essentially. And therefore there's a great lack of information included in the study. So it seems like the actual disabled people's opinions weren't really included in the study. They just had the court public records. So that's kind of unfortunate, but at least there is somebody looking into it. And I can relate because I did have an employee discrimination issue once with the company, and I didn't take it to court because I didn't feel like fighting a big company and I did not have the money to do so anyway. And because the state income for disabled people is, quite frankly, the lowest amount possible, I doubt a lot of disabled people that are working, that are like disabled through, like, if they're working and also on disability, there's like a limit of how much you can make, so they probably don't have enough to pay a lawyer. That's just how I'm thinking. Do I think the ADA Title I works? Probably not as much as it should. Moving on to disabled history. Da-na-na-na. Today on Disabled History, we have Helen Keller. Helen Keller was born June 27, 1880, and sadly passed away on June 1st, 1968. Helen Keller was an American activist, author, disability rights advocate, and lecturer. At 19 months old, she developed a condition that doctors described as a congestion of the stomach and the brain, which left her deaf and blind. Until she was about 7 years old, she used communication known as home signs, which essentially was a way that she figured out how to communicate without any knowledge of communication whatsoever. The exact definition of home signs is a gestural communication system developed by a deaf or blind child who does not have linguistic input. It was at 7 years old when she met Anne Sullivan, her teacher and lifelong companion. Sullivan herself was blind as a result of trachoma. Helen learned language from Anne, including reading and writing. They predominantly use the Tadoma method, which is very rarely used today. This method of learning gave Helen the ability to attend college and become the first deaf-blind individual to receive a Bachelor's of Art from Radcliffe University at Harvard. Helen Keller wrote 14 books and hundreds of speeches and lectures. She also advocated for blind individuals all over the world. Helen Keller's major contributions within society were disability advocacy, women's suffrage, labor rights, and world peace. And I just spit. Hope you didn't see that.